Hello viewers, Super GT here. So Fanatec have very kindly sent me their brand new, unreleased Gran Turismo direct drive wheel. So in this video, it only makes sense therefore to install it, give it a go and see what we think of it. So we have it here, the Fanatec DD Pro. We've got the Boost 180 kit which makes it a bit more powerful. And this is what we are replacing. This is the DD1 for PS4 with the McLaren GT3 rim. So let's change this all over. And there it is, just like that. Okay, so this is what we're looking at, the brand new Fanatec CSL DD Pro Gran Turismo. Bit of a mouthful of a name, but there you go. That's the back of the wheelbase with the input ports. This is a comparison to the DD1, so you can see it's significantly smaller and a bit more robust. And this is the Boost Kit 180, which ups the maximum power from 5 to 8 Newton meters. These are the pedals you get with the bundle, but they also sent me the CSL load cell pedal, which I'll definitely recommend getting if you can. Load cell pedals just really transform your experience. That's what it looks like once you put all three together and then change the face plates over to these nice metal ones. Now for the purposes of this video, I will be using my V3 pedals because the mounting options on the bottom of this aren't the greatest when it comes to using it on a SimLab rig, so I'll be using the V3 pedals there. Okay, so the wheel is now attached to the sim rig. It's time to give it a go. So this wheel is actually now available to be pre-ordered on Fanatec's website, so I've linked that below. They've also got a load of Black Friday sales going on, so again, linked below. Click the link, all of that good stuff. With that said, we're going to jump into some races on Gran Turismo Sport, see how the wheel performs, see how I do, and then after that, I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, so quite conveniently this week, the Daily Race C is the Nordschleife and Group 3 car, so a combination I know fairly well, especially after doing 200 laps of it for a charity race. So we're going to jump into some qualifying here and just try to get used to the wheel. Now for me, of course, I'm used to the DD1, which I normally use, which is significantly more powerful. So for me, technically this is a downgrade. Sounds kind of weird to say that, but just trying to get used to it, trying to adapt to it. And to be honest, as you can see here, things going rather smoothly. So even though, okay, the peak torque isn't as high as a DD1, that doesn't mean it's not powerful. It doesn't mean it's not strong, because it's very strong. Our first lap was okay, 809.7, but on our second lap here, we just got used to it a bit more. So it does take time to adapt to a new wheel whenever you get one, whatever wheel that might be, or a new pedal set, whatever it is. It takes a while just to adapt and get used to how the new one feels. But this one, given this direct drive, it felt smooth. It feels smooth. That's the main thing, and detailed. So you can see here, even though this, yes, admittedly is a track that I know very well, I felt as though I could adapt to this wheel very quickly, and only on my second lap here I was already going fairly quickly, probably not too far off what I'd be doing on the DD1. So coming up towards the final sector here, looking to try and beat an 809.7, and throughout the lap we were definitely quicker, so it's going to be a couple of seconds improvement, and there it is, it's an 805.6, so a solid improvement, solid lap there indeed. Now in terms of just tuning the setup of the wheel, you can do that quite easily pressing the edit button. Then you can change all your force feedback, your rotation, degrees, all of that kind of thing. All very easy to do. And there's another thing that I found quite interesting. Something about this wheel that a lot of people are wondering is these buttons here. Now you can see here the individual settings you can change in the game, right? So you can just about see that there. If I press up on this, it changes traction control, as you can see. If I go up and down on this, it changes the fuel. If I go up and down on this, it changes the brake bias. This one is for torque in rally cars, but I'm not driving a rally car. So yeah, these are actually pretty useful. The fact that you can just change each one individually. All right, time to jump into our very first race on this wheel. Quite conveniently, I qualified in 6th position. Quite funny as well, this guy mentioned he just ordered the CSL DD and hope it is worth it. So I suppose I'm about to find out if it's worth it if we do this race. So as I said, qualifying in the infamous 6th place for 2 laps around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, our first ever race on the CSL DD. Let's go. Driving the Toyota Supra, which is the strongest car for the race. But this is my first race of the week, and normally you're at a bit of a disadvantage jumping into a race so late in the week, because everyone's kind of got good qualifying times by then and they're a bit more used to it. So with all of those excuses out of the way, let's try to jump into this one and have a good one. The Ferrari and the Supra here side by side. Supra just runs him out, tries to get ahead and stay in 4th. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting, coming down the hill here towards the hairpin. I'm going to swing over to the inside, and I'm not going to give up this position. I'm going to dive up the inside, get to the apex first, and move up into 5th. So not too bad of a start here. Just trying to, again, get used to the wheel, getting used to how it feels. Now, before I used before this wheel that I'm using now, the CSL DD, I used the DD1 for PS4, which is basically or near enough the strongest wheel on the market in terms of PlayStation. So, well, it is actually the strongest wheel technically available on PlayStation. And before that, so about 2 years ago, I used the CSL Elite, which is a sort of mid-range belt-driven wheel by Fanatec. So I've used a fair range of different wheels when it comes to Fanatec, and just trying to get myself accustomed to how this one feels. At this point in the race, you can see it's actually going okay. It's always difficult to overtake around the Nordschleife, so often it's a case of just sticking as close as you possibly can for as long as possible, waiting for a mistake, or waiting for the back straight where you can slipstream past. And that's kind of how it is in real life as well. There's not much in the way of overtaking unless someone does something hideously wrong. The guy in second has a penalty, so we're going to try and keep in touch with them as best as possible and hope to go past them on the straight when they do eventually serve their penalty. Coming down the hill, you can see just how close this is. Ferrari behind isn't too far away, and guy in second very close, so we're in with a shout here. But coming up here, just turning in a little bit too late, but we keep it under control, just about going over the grass. But then another mistake here as we go onto the curb, accelerate a little bit too much too soon, just kicks the left-hand wheels onto the grass. But we managed to recover that moment, and that is the thing about direct drive that is superior to like a belt-driven wheel, is that in moments like that where you're half spinning, or you're just sort of in a moment where you're half going towards the shadow realm, then because of how sort of responsive, how accurate, how sharp a direct drive wheel is, you can just really recover it very quickly. So I found that when I moved over to the DD1, I was spinning a lot less, I was recovering slides a lot easier, and that's sort of the number one thing that I think you'll find when you move over to a direct drive. So heading up towards the carousel, we've dropped down into 6th position, of course courtesy of that one mistake, or 2 mistakes you could say. But we are in contention here for 4th place. 3rd place isn't too far away, but this fast sweeping section, about 3/4 of the way around the lap, always very fun to do, and it kind of is a very important section because it leads out onto, of course, the final long straights. So you've got to set yourself up through this section, make sure the 2 cars ahead aren't going to get too far away. I must stay within slipstream range of those 2, otherwise it's going to be very difficult. You can see here, feeling nice and comfortable on the wheel by this point, as we're lapping fairly comfortably by this point of the race. Not really too much in the way of mistakes. I hope that we got those mistakes out of the way nice and early. But I would say the adaptation to... Oh, that guy obviously isn't using a direct drive wheel as he spins out from 2nd or from 3rd. But the adaptation time taken here to get used to this wheel, not very long at all. I mean, I did what? 2 qualifying laps as that guy goes wide, did 2 qualifying laps, and this is my 3rd lap on the wheel. So actually I think that's fairly quick time to get used to this. So that's probably a good sign. Out onto the back straight. Am I in slipstream range? No. Unfortunately, because that Ferrari went wide, he was in slipstream range, but then, yeah, the guy in 3rd kind of just pulled away there. A bit of a frustrating way for it to pan out. So we're going to get slipstreamed here by the Polish driver. So we have to tuck back in and hope to get the repass done. Let's see if we can do that. Pull back over to the right. The Ferrari just behind us there. There he is, very, very close indeed. So we're going to go side by side. This is always a good test of the wheel. How precisely can you drive through this very fast section side by side without crashing. And actually we managed to get it done just fine. So that was actually a good little sequence there. So we jump back up into 4th. 2nd place, not too far away after having served that penalty. 3rd place, of course, just about 1.1 seconds ahead. Coming towards turn 1, lap 2. I decided to go defensive just to make sure this guy behind doesn't go for that move. And thankfully he doesn't. Instead he gets lunged by the Ferrari, and that loses the pair of them quite a bit of time there as we take a quick sneak look back. So as a result of that fighting, they lose a bit of time. At the end of the GP section, we just beginning to lose touch with 2nd and 3rd. They're not too far away, but they are just slightly quicker, I sense, by this point. And I suppose I don't think I had the correct brake balance, so my front tyres were just going off a little bit too much compared to what I would have liked. So as you can see, the guys in 2nd and 3rd just began to edge away slightly, not much, but just a little bit here and there, and therefore it became a bit of a defensive race. This is the 2nd to last corner before the back straight, and I went a little bit wide. The Polish driver didn't take the bait and go for the move, but then this is going to be really difficult to defend because I have no slipstream ahead, but the guy behind has lots of slipstream on me, so this is going to be really tricky to try to keep this guy behind. So as you can see, he pulls off. I'm just going to back off the throttle as well. So I'm basically trying not to give him... I don't want to give him too much of a slingshot. So you don't want to give him too much space. So he's going to back off and go for it again. Once again, I'm going to lift off. And then it's going to be a straight drag race. This is quite a difficult defensive manoeuvre to pull off on this straight because of how long it is. So I'm doing my best here. But it's going to be a side-by-side once again with the same guy coming up into this final sequence. So can we keep it on the track together? Yes, we can, just about. He is just going to get ahead, as I did a lap before. Going to perhaps go for the undercut. The old switcheroo on the way out, not quite going to work. It was a good little battle there. So there it is, our first race on the new wheel. Really enjoyed it, finishing in 5th. So we had a really good race there at Nürburgring, Nordschleife. Not my best race of all time. Made a couple of mistakes, but I was just getting used to the wheel. And there was a couple of those moments in that race where I just touched the grass and the car was about to spin, but then I could correct it quickly enough. And for me, that's the main reason that you want to get a DD or a direct drive wheel. So many people ask, what is direct drive? Why does it make it better? What's the point of it? I think the main thing is really just how sharp, how fast, and how detailed the force feedback is. If you hit a curb and you spin, you can feel it really quickly and you can accurately correct it. So the main thing for me with the direct drive is not necessarily that it makes you faster, it just makes you more consistent, you make less mistakes, you're going to spin less, and it just feels a bit more realistic. It feels a bit more detailed, so you can just feel the corner, you can feel the curb, you can feel the wheel spin, you can feel the understeer, you can just feel all of that in a bit more detail. Let's talk about the functionality of it. I think the first thing to talk about is setting it up. It was actually very easy. Very, very quick, very easy. Just pretty much just works straight away. The buttons. So of course this is designed for Gran Turismo. It's designed for PlayStation. It did work very well there. I like the fact that each individual button corresponds to each of the settings in the game: ABS, traction control, torque, and fuel. So the functionality, fine. How about the feel of it? Now, because it's a direct drive, as I've said, it did feel very detailed. It felt good. I normally use this big boy here, the DD1. This is about 3 or 4 times stronger than the one we're using here. To me, it felt obviously less detailed than this, but more than good enough as a way in to sim racing, as a way in to getting a wheelbase. So if anything, it felt less detailed than what I'm used to, but that's not because it's a bad wheel. It's just because this one is so damn strong. So I'm using the Boost Kit 180. It gives you 8 Newton meters of peak force. And to be honest, I felt like that was more than enough. I felt really comfortable in that race. What I would say though is that the rim was comfortable, but it wasn't as good as I thought it could be. So normally I use this rim, and the McLaren GT3 rim I think is really good. I think that just the shape of it just feels more comfortable to use, I would say. So in terms of the looks as well, I don't think it looks amazing. It doesn't look bad. It just kind of doesn't really set the world alight in terms of beauty. But in terms of the main things, I think functionality and the way it feels, the way it responds, that's really good. The looks, not the best, but not the worst. Which is why I'd probably recommend buying this wheelbase, but also getting yourself something like this, or even like a Club Sport F1 wheel. So they do work. I mean, I can just do that right now if you want. Twist that. Comes off very easily. Insert another one, and it's connected just like that. So really easy. So I personally think that this rim, the McLaren rim, works. It just feels a lot better to use on this, and it works fine. It works fine. I mean, we can quickly give it a go. So you see I'm using it. It works fine. Oh my goodness. Plus the benefit of using the McLaren rim is that it works on Xbox as well. I mean, this wheelbase is compatible on PC and PlayStation, but then you can make it work on Xbox as well if you get an Xbox rim, which the McLaren is. So there's my thoughts on the brand new CSL DD Pro Gran Turismo rim. I really like it. I think it's a very good way to get started, or even just as an upgrade from something you already have. What I would say, my recommendation, if you are to do this, is to buy at least a load cell brake pedal as well. So you can buy the CSL pedals, but buy the CSL load cell, I would recommend. I think that's the best way to upgrade. If you want another upgrade, then perhaps buy a different rim, like the McLaren GT3 rim. But having said all of that, if you buy yourself this wheelbase with this rim, it's a really good way into sim racing on console. Even on PC as well. It works on PC. Buying direct drive is just, it's really worth investing in a direct drive if you can afford it. If you can afford it, of course. But yeah, direct drive is the way to go if possible. So yeah, at the moment, it's all available on their website. They've got a bit of a sale on because it's Black Friday. And this wheelbase is up for pre-order. And you can order it, I think it's for December, if you get the early one, or March 2022. So around about when Gran Turismo 7 comes out. But that is all from this one. If you have any questions, then please do comment down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you found it useful. Get yourself subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. And have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.